Ever since I was a child, I was great with numbers. So when I took my first accounting class in college, I knew that was the path for me. When my firm hired me 10 years ago, right after I graduated, I was ecstatic. They were a medium-sized firm with 300 employees, and they could see my potential. I felt accepted. Every morning, I'd look forward to going to work. I felt bad for those people who always looked forward to the weekend, because I looked forward to every day. Steve was the same way, always with a smile on his face at work. The clients loved him, and so did the firm's partners. Over the years, I came to learn that Steve didn't grow up with much, nothing really, and I could see how much he appreciated every opportunity he had. Every day was a great day at the office for me and Steve. That is, until last year when the pandemic started and my firm sent us home for almost a year. I was miserable during that time. My kids were all over the place, my spouse was stressed, which made me stressed, and well, I just really needed to get back to work. So when my firm announced that we could return to the office, I was the second one there, bright and early on Monday. I would have been the first, but of course, Steve beat me to it. The hectic office life that I loved had resumed. In leaving my home, I found the tranquility that I lost, and slowly, everything at home fell into place again. I would wake up, go to my job, and return to a happy home. My life was so busy, but it felt complete. But things changed when Sarah, one of the partners at the firm, told everyone in the office that we can't come into work unless we take the COVID vaccine or test negative for COVID every week. I got vaccinated as soon as my age group was allowed to, but Steve didn't get the vaccine. He thought it was too new and wanted to wait to see if new side effects of taking the vaccine would be discovered. That day was the first day in 10 years that I saw Steve without a chipper smile. I saw Steve follow Sarah into her office after she made the announcement. Like any coworker would, I went to get coffee at the station right next to her office and listened in on their conversation. I heard Sarah tell Steve that the vaccine mandate was out of her control. She said that the Secretary of Labor under OSHA enacted the rule, and it required employers with at least 100 employees to have their employees get a COVID vaccine or get negative COVID tests weekly and wear masks during work. Otherwise, coworkers who didn't would need to be removed. I could hear the stress in Sarah's voice. It almost sounded like fear. She told Steve that if she didn't comply with the mandate, then the firm could be fined between $13,000 and $136,000 per violation, and the firm would go bankrupt with those fines. I had heard enough and returned to my chair. When I came into work the following Monday, almost half of the people in the office were gone, including Steve. Junior staff, my coworkers, and even partners couldn't come to work. The office character that I loved had disappeared, and in its place came gloom and uncertainty. After weeks had passed, I started getting used to the new normal. Half smiles, empty laughs, and silenced coughs and sneezes. But then I saw Steve, and he was smiling again. He walked in as if no time had passed, and it was back to work as usual. But he wasn't alone. There was a woman behind him. She was a suit woman and held a long writing pad. They both headed straight towards Sarah's office, and suddenly, my mouth watered for coffee. As I walked towards the coffee station, I could hear phrases from the chatter: Occupational Safety and Health Act, beyond the scope of their authority, National Federation of Independent Business, and then I got it. They were going to the Supreme Court. I found out that the woman with Steve was called Joan, and she was the lawyer for the National Federation of Independent Business. She invited Steve to watch her argue in front of the Supreme Court, and Steve invited me to go with him to hear the lawyers fight it out. On oral argument day, I took notice of the attorney's demeanor as they sat outside the courtroom. The Solicitor General was quiet and looked calm and confident, but when I looked at Joan, she was reciting her speech to herself and concentrating so hard that her frown lines made her appear 5 years older. She seemed nervous, and her tension made me worry. After all, the Solicitor General is the 4th highest ranking official in the Department of Justice. Who would really win against him? It seemed like such an uphill battle. After the doors opened and everyone entered the courtroom, the justices came out and the battle began. Question after question, the attorneys answered precisely. If they didn't, a justice would cut them off with a new question. My eyes moved rapidly between the attorneys and justices, trying to keep up with the points each person made. In watching, I learned that OSHA's main duty is to make rules that ensure safe and healthy working conditions, and that to make these rules, OSHA needs to tell the public about the suggested rule, allow the public to comment on it, and hold a public hearing. I learned that OSHA can make a temporary emergency rule without giving the public time to respond to it, but only if toxic substances or new hazards expose employees to a serious danger and the emergency rule is necessary to protect them from the danger. After 30 minutes of watching the attorneys survive attack after attack disguised as questions, I noticed that the calm demeanor the Solicitor General initially had turned into a tense appearance. The Supreme Court obliterated his argument that we need the COVID vaccine mandate because the risk of getting COVID is a work-related danger. The court said that even though getting COVID is a risk that occurs at many workplaces, COVID isn't an occupational hazard most of the time because it can be spread at home, in school, during sport events, and pretty much anywhere there is a large gathering, which makes getting COVID no different from everyday dangers like crime, air pollution, or communicable diseases. And since OSHA doesn't have the authority to regulate crime or air pollution, it also shouldn't have the authority to regulate public health. The court said that requiring 84 million Americans to either get vaccinated or get weekly COVID tests at their own expense seriously encroaches into many employees' lives and health. The mandate was too broad because the Occupational Safety and Health Act allows OSHA to regulate hazards that employees face at work and not to make broad public health laws. After the hearing was over, Joan told Steve and me that the Supreme Court stayed the vaccine mandate. She explained to us that the stay means that the vaccine mandate can't be enforced during the time the mandate is stayed, and Stephen could go back to the office if he wanted to and if the office wanted him there. The relief I felt then was unparalleled to any other relief I had felt in the last year and a half. As I walked out of the courtroom and entered my car, I just sat there, taking in all that had happened. I never was for or against the mandate. I just wanted things to go back to normal at my job. But the justice's questions lingered in my head as I turned on my car. What would happen in the future if OSHA could regulate public health instead of just work-related safety? Maybe nothing, or maybe everything. If you have a legal question, visit Welcome Home Justice and ask justice.